It's SCA Steak time, ladies and gentlemen. Alright everybody, this weekend I'll be competing in my first ever SCA Steak Cookoff event. So this is prep week, which means all week long we have to have ribeyes for dinner because Daddy is practicing. So what I want to do is just quick run through to sort of explain the photos and video of the first ribeye cook, which I did last night. I cooked 2 ribeyes from my local meat market, and tomorrow night I'm going to cook 2 more ribeyes, and I'm doing all 4 of them with a little bit different rubs, and I'm trying some different things on the grill with grill grates and with direct sear using the cold grate technique, and just seeing sort of how the flavors turn out and trying to decide which rub combo and which cooking method I'm going to go with in St. Paul this weekend. The cool thing about our event in St. Paul is that it's humongous. I only started hearing about the State Cookoff Association within the last year, and I've been reading about it, and really there's not very much on YouTube about it. There's a few videos about SCA steak comps, but it's really sparse information. So I'm hoping that this video will actually be popular and helpful for that reason, because just like when I got my Lone Star, there just wasn't much out there about it because obviously the Lone Star was so new, and a lot of my videos have had quite a few views just because there's just not much out on YouTube yet about the new Lone Star line. It's the same thing with steak cook-offs. There's just not a whole lot of help available on YouTube, so I'm taking what little help I can get from what's there and trying to learn as best I can this week and go from there. So let's talk about these rubs. All right, so the best results that I've had personally cooking steak at home has come from taking advice of guys on YouTube who go with 3 layers of seasoning on their steaks. Usually what they will do is start off with a layer of SPGs, and that is a salt, pepper, garlic based rub that usually is very white in color. Okay, you'll see some dark flecks in it, but it's primarily white. That's the first layer, your SPG layers. And when I say SPG based, what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be just salt, pepper, and garlic. There are plenty of good rubs with just those 3 ingredients in them. You can make that easily at home. Change up the ratios to emphasize different aspects of those 3 flavors. But these kinds of rubs, usually the commercial ones, have more in them than just SPG, and that's what sets them apart from one another. The second layer is more your traditional barbecue rubs, your red paprika layer. You put that on second on your steak, and you finish with your third category, which is something like a Montreal steak seasoning, which is that really coarse grind that gives your steak that final punch of saltiness and also a little bit of crunch, a little bit of crust. Since you're not getting a bark on steaks, you're only cooking them for 8 minutes to 10 minutes. The Montreal steak sort of provides that outer pleasant layer of texture and crunchiness so that your steak doesn't get so soggy and steamy when you submit it in the styrofoam box. I'm going to go with this strategy. I already know that. However, what I don't know yet is which SPG I'm going to use, combined with which barbecue rub, combined with which version of Montreal steak. And that's what my first experiment was about last night. So what I used last night for my SPG layer, which is your base layer of flavor, that's where your salt and pepper and that little bit of garlic punch come from. I used Killer Hog's AP rub, and that is what I'm going to go with in the competition. I do really like Cosmos Q Texas beef, which is also a version of an SPG, but I'm not going to use it in the contest for 2 reasons. Number 1, I'm out of it, which is why I bought some Killer Hogs to experiment with. Number two, Cosmos has sugar in it. And even though I really like the rub, it wouldn't be good for a hot and fast steak cook. For my second layer, I'm not experimenting with all of these. I'm going to eliminate the Cosmos Sweet Honey Pecan because it's not my favorite. And I'll explain. I'm going to have a future video where I do a review of all four of these Cosmos rubs. Texas Beef, which is the white SPG rub, Honey Killer Bee, Cow Cover, which is his beef barbecue rub, and Sweet Honey Pecan. I do love Cosmos Q rubs, so don't take my negative comment about the Sweet Honey Pecan and project that onto all of these. These three all have very good elements about them. I just don't prefer the Sweet Honey Pecan for my tastes. So, eliminating that one. I'm out of Honey Killer Bee, so eliminating that one. Last night I tried Cow Cover, and then I have three different John Henry's rubs. Old Stockyard steak seasoning, Texas brisket, and a new one I picked up last night at my meat market called State Fair rub. Even before I had tasted these, I thought, man, even if this isn't good, that's a really cool name. He's got some cool names for his rubs. Old Stockyard, that just sounds like beef, man. That just sounds like a big old Angus walking around waiting to get seasoned up and grilled. And State Fair rub, that's a cool sounding rub as well. I tasted both of these on my finger, Old Stockyard and State Fair. Honestly, they tasted pretty similar to me. So I eliminated State Fair rub because it has sugar in it. So last night I tried Old Stockyard and Cow Cover on my two different ribeyes. I did AP on both of them. That was my base layer for both of them. Then on one ribeye I did Old Stockyard for my second layer for my barbecue flavors, and I did Cow Cover on the other one. Perhaps later this week I'll do Texas brisket on the other two. We'll see. So far this is what I had for my experiment. AP on both. One of these on each of my steaks. Then for both of them, I finished with Montreal steak seasoning. So the base layer and the finishing layer was the same on both ribeyes. I wanted to get a sense of what's the difference between these two. I decided that the winner was Old Stockyard. I actually really enjoy Cow Cover, so that's not a knock on Cow Cover. But the reason I'm going with Old Stockyard instead of Cow Cover is because Old Stockyard was definitely more noticeable on the steak. The pepperiness of it, the saltiness of it, the flavors of it really popped, whereas Cosmos Cow Cover sort of stayed more in the background. So, Killer Hogs, John Henry's Old Stockyard, Montreal Steak was the winner of round one. Now, again, I'm going to do another round with two more combos tomorrow night, and we'll see how that goes. I do want to say, again, this is not a critique of Cow Cover. I'm not complaining about it. Actually, for many recipes, you would want a rub that stays more in the background and that doesn't dominate. However, for SCA steak strategy, you don't want a ribeye that just tastes like a ribeye. Unfortunately, I might rather have a ribeye at home that just tastes like beef and butter. But you need, if the judge is only taking one bite of your steak, you need to figure out a combination that makes that bite stand out. And so that's why I chose to go with Old Stockyard over Cow Cover, because the Old Stockyard has that feature. Now, if I'm just cooking at home, burgers or something for myself, I might go with the Cow Cover because I might not want a rub that dominates the way that the John Henry's does. But both rubs are very good for their own purpose. This is the one that won round one of the contest. Let's see who wins round two. All right, y'all. Part of the prep for an SCA steak event is obviously practicing your steaks and picking out your rubs, like I've been doing. And part of it is also, although this is optional, practicing your appetizer. I chose to enter the optional appetizer contest, which takes place on the same day as the steak contest. And I think, if I remember right on the timeline, it comes just before before you cook your steaks. So I'll be doing the appetizer and the steak cook, and there's separate prize categories for each. But another big part of the preparation is packing up some plastic totes with all the different supplies I'm going to need. I took a couple screenshots of a list that I made in Evernote of supplies that I've thought of based on what I've seen in other guys' videos, and a whole bunch more stuff that I thought of that I'll need that I didn't see in their videos. So while this isn't as complex as a barbecue contest, at least from what I've heard, it still has a level of complexity to it. You still need to pack a whole bunch of stuff up. And so that's what we're going to do next. So check out our packing list. Alright y'all, well this is most of it. Pretty much the only stuff that's not here is the fresh ingredients like butter and bacon grease that I'll load up on Saturday morning right when I head out. Ice and a couple odds and ends like saucepans and things that I'll be using over the last couple of days here as I prep practicing that appetizer and the other stuff. So that's about what a pile looks like for the SCA Steak event. So even though I haven't done a barbecue contest, I've been told, and I get a distinct sense that this prep is still much easier doing a steak cook because it's, again, less than one full day, and I'm not hauling a big smoker. And I'm only doing one meat, and that meat takes 20 minutes. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm really curious to see how this is going to go. Like I said, this event in St. Paul is one of the big ones. I'm not sure if it's one of the biggest in terms of competitors, but definitely in terms of prize pool. The total purse is $11,000 with $5,000 going to first place. And my understanding is that's pretty uncommon numbers in the steak world. And you guys tell me. I think that's uncommon for that good of a prize pool in the barbecue world as well, but I guess I'm not an expert on that yet, though I hope to start competing once or twice a year next summer. So, here goes nothing. Y'all wish me luck. Alright y'all, it's appetizer practice day. Tomorrow's the big day, so today we're practicing our appetizer and our final steak practice. I'll show you that in a minute. But here's my setup for the appetizer that you just saw. I bought some of those Weber charcoal holders for this contest. And this appetizer has to be cooked on the grill or baked on the grill. So I did indirect heat. I filled up both baskets. This is one full Weber charcoal worth of briquettes, Royal Oak Ridge briquettes. I got my little hover grill on here from my old Smokinator kit. And I got my ham and cheese bunwiches in a foil pan, sort of double boiler style, with water in the bottom pan right here. Just a little tiny bit of water to keep those rolls from burning. And then I just set the top pan right in on top of that with some foil. I'll take that foil off for the last 15 minutes. When I came out here to put the food on, it was up to about 450 degrees a minute ago internal at the top of the grill here. So I cranked that back to half, and I'm hoping to keep it, I'm hoping it'll creep back up to 350 and not go over that. I really don't want to burn the sugar in this recipe, but that's why we're practicing today. See exactly where we need that that grill temp to be. Now, let me explain what you just saw in the pictures of that appetizer. It is a wonderful, I want to call it a family recipe, but we stole it from another family, a lady from Alabama, probably 30 years ago when I was a very little boy. Man, what just hit me? Sound like a helicopter. Anyhow, it's basically little dinner rolls split in half with ham and cheese, and then you pour this delicious butter and yellow mustard and sugar-based sauce that you heat up on the stove and melt all that together with some minced onion and some poppy seed, salt and pepper. You pour that over the top of them, and it makes this sweet and savory, amazing sauce over the top of these melty, hot ham and cheese, basically sliders that come out of the oven like that. And the sugar, you bake them in a glass Pyrex pan, you get some crispy sugar around the edges of that pan that everybody's trying to dig out and put on top of their ham and cheese poppy seed bunwiches. It's a delicious dish. And so we got it, like I said, from an Alabama mama, and we've been cooking it in our family ever since. So I'm going to use it tomorrow at the SCA Cookoff because I entered the appetizer contest, obviously. All right, here's the 15-minute check. They're looking delicious. That cheese is melting. One thing I want to point out, in case you're wondering, is I used the best quality ham I could find, off the bone ham from the deli. Rolled that up, put a nice little pile in each one. Used the best Swiss we could find, really thinly shaved baby Swiss. Put a little rectangle of that on each one. And then the best white American cheese we could find, which is actually becoming harder and harder for us to find in our grocery stores. Remember, you're not trying to cook these things. You're just, all you need to do is melt the cheese, really, and get that glaze sort of, you know, sweetened up, cured a little bit. I was thinking I was going to leave these for 15 more minutes, but I'm not going to. I'm probably going to leave them on here for about 7, 8 more minutes. I just put a few little apple chunks in here to maybe give a nice little smoky, sweet bonus to the tops of those. And if you noticed, one thing I did not expect was 3 or 4 of those were actually a little bit charred on top from contact with the tin foil. And I don't mind a little bit of color, that would be fine. Actually, I think it would help in presentation, but I certainly don't want them all getting that dark. I need 6 good ones to choose from. That's why I'm making 12. I have to submit 6 individual little appetizer servings to the judges, and a couple of those are a little darker than I would want to submit. So what I might do tomorrow is, if I remember, I might bring toothpicks and sort of tint that tin foil so it's not making direct contact. All right, we're back inside. They didn't even need the full 7 minutes. Some of them are getting a little too much color, so I'll adjust for that tomorrow. The double boiler worked awesome though. None of this brown sugary sauce down here burned at all. So it's actually the tops I'm gonna have to worry about tomorrow, and maybe what I'll do is not use my hover grill. Keep them down in a cooler zone. We'll see. We'll adjust. It'll be fine. Like I said, all you gotta do is melt the cheese and get these puppies hot. You're not really cooking anything. But I'm gonna test one of the ones that got a little more burnt because I just want to know how that tastes. And so let's cut into this baby. Let's take us a test. The top is nice and crunchy. It's not too crunchy. I actually think that texture might help me with the judges, not just a soggy sweet roll. And by the way, I told you about the high quality ham and cheese. I also got King's Hawaiian sweet rolls. So we're trying to find the best of each of these ingredients to make these puppies impress the judges. Here we go. Some ham. You can tell that's real off the bone ham with some fat on there. Good sauce. Mm. Oh. That's so good. I am going to need to be careful on the lids of these puppies tomorrow, because even though this one's one of the darker ones, it's not unpleasant. It's not an overpowering char, but there's just a hint of like too much char right in the background. So I'll try to keep them more golden brown tomorrow. But look at that cheesy with that Swiss and American mix. You get, I think, the best of both worlds. The punch and flavor of the Swiss and the meltiness, that classic like American cheeseburger going on. So I think it's a winning combo. These babies here might win me $1,000 tomorrow. We're gonna try. That's 2 thumbs up. All right, boys and girls, it's steak practice time. Found 3 real nice looking ribeyes at Costco. I'm gonna trim them up SCA style. I would not do this for home cooking. This is what everybody advises for appearance score for SCA. So, sorry about that. Take the fat off the edges. Take the little tails off the ends. Man, I hate doing this. Feels like you're wasting a lot of good stuff. I should grind my own burger, but well, I don't. So, that's what you do. Trim the tails off. I'm doing a little rougher today than I will tomorrow because I'm just trying to show examples. Not trying to do it perfectly pretty today, but I'll work a little harder at that tomorrow. The reason that you trim all the fat off of this spinalis, or the rib cap, is because that's where the judges eat from. And you want to expose the meat all along this area, because if you only have one bite to make an impression, you don't want them to get a bite of pure fat, even if it's seasoned up nice. Now, we enjoy eating fat while we're eating steak, but we wouldn't want that to be our only bite of the steak, and neither does a judge. So, these are a little bit rough, but you get the basic idea. What you're trying to do is just trim these up and shape them so that they're uniform. I'll do that third one in a minute, but I don't want to make this video segment any longer. So I'll just show you. All I'm doing right now is trimming them up, putting a nice thick coat of Killer Hogs AP, which is again my SPG base layer that I'm going to use on all of them. I've already determined that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And as you recall, all that's left to be determined is which barbecue rub I'm going to put on as the second layer, and which coarse Montreal steak style rub I'm going to put on as the third layer right before I grill them to give them that nice crunch. So I'm going to trim these up. I'm going to SPG all 3 of them, and then I'm going to put them back in the fridge for 30 minutes till I'm ready to grill. Alright, it hasn't quite been half an hour, but I did a quick change of plans because I remembered I was actually planning to cold grate sear these today instead of using the grill grates, which means I need to get these on the grill on indirect heat for a while before I sear them. So I went ahead and put the second and third layers of rub on. For this left one, second layer was John Henry's Texas Brisket Rub, which is going up against bootleg Outlaw Surf and Turf seasoning, which I've used before with very good results on prime rib roast. This third one, since I wasn't planning on having 3 today, but I had to buy a third one at Costco, I decided to go completely different with this one and just do black pepper and kosher salt for the second layer. the third layer for both of these, because I want these two going head to head. I don't want anything different about these other than the second layer. So the first layer is, again, Killer Hogs AP for all three steaks. Second layer, John Henry's for the left, Bootleg for the right, and the final layer, just the coarse Montreal steak crunchy seasoning, which gives it a nice texture. Again, this one is also Killer Hogs for the first layer, but then the second layer is just pepper and salt. The third layer, again, to go with the doing something totally different on the third one, is this no salt, very coarse seasoning from Costco that has 21 different things in it. And it sounds really good. It smells really good. I'll probably taste some here in a minute. I figured since we had a third steak, hey, let's do something funky. So let's go get these on the grill and try and get them up to 100 degrees or so internal so we can sear them. Alright, I just pulled them. It's time to let them rest before we do the final sear. I'm going to pat them dry with a paper towel while they rest, or after they're done resting, I'll pat them dry with a paper towel. While they're resting, I'm letting the grill coals get rocking and rolling. I'll get that little grill grate off of there, and I'm going to try cold grate searing these directly over my Weber charcoal baskets down there. Now, like I said, they did get, or actually I didn't say this yet, they really surprised me. I actually overshot my internal temperature, so I'm glad I practiced, because my grill for the last 15 minutes, the last 15-minute section, got up to 350, and I did not have a pit probe monitoring it, so I was just inside actually working on this video for YouTube. So I actually overshot my temperatures pretty significantly. Like internal temps on these are, one of them's in the 130s already, and one of them's in the 140s, which is actually terrible for an SCA steak cook. I want to pull these at a final temperature of like 130 max, and I haven't even seared these yet. So that was a mistake on my part, running without monitoring it. Really, while you're slow indirect cooking these, the way that David at Adrenaline Barbecue shows how to do it in the video that he made with Baby Back Maniac, I'll put the link down below. You really want your grill between like 200 and 225, if I remember correctly. So we were earlier, the first 15 minutes, I was between like 250 and 275, which I wasn't too worked up about, because they cooked theirs for, I think, nearly an hour, and I was only going to let mine go for 30 minutes at 250 to 275. But the temperature spiked on me, and so I overshot. But again, this is just for me and the fam tonight, and the main thing I'm trying to test is the rub combinations, which I will still be able to do with the sear. So even though these ribeyes are going to be a little more done than I would want them myself, or than the judges will want them tomorrow, it won't hurt me, because, again, the main thing in this practice run is testing the method itself and testing the rub combinations. So I'm still able to do that, and obviously tomorrow, sitting in my tent, grilling at the SCA contest, I'm going to be a lot more aware of what the grill temps are than I was today while I was making a video for you guys. So I took one for the team here. Anyhow, I'm still a little perplexed by what the thermopop is showing me temps, because there's still blood coming out of them. So we'll see when we cut into them what they look like. Lesson learned. All right. Thankfully, I think I got a little bit of a misread on the thermometer. I think I was a little too close to the surface. I still overshot my temps, but they finished about 130. The hottest one was about 134 in the center. So I'm still going to sear them, because I still want to see what this cold grate searing technique will do for me. That looks awesome when ABC Barbecue does it. I'm doing it on a poor man's slow and sear. I don't have the real deal. I just bought the cheap Weber charcoal baskets. And I have, well, let me show you. I have the coldest grate possible. I am literally carrying the steaks out to sear on a completely cool grate. I'm not even wearing gloves. And I'm going to set them right down on the hottest part of that grill. Go get the tongs and adjust them so that they're directly over that hot flame. And we're going to do 1 minute at a time, 4 times, just like David says to do. We'll be right back. 1 minute. Let's give I'm going to try and do a 1/3 twist. And I'm going to keep these in the same order that they are in because I want to keep track of my rub combos. Oops, I'm supposed to flip that. Ooh, that one's looking nice. Let's crowd them up in there. All right, minute number 2 underway. We got to do this 4 times total. All right, so these don't look too rough. That one is definitely overdone there. But these two actually don't look bad at all. They're nice and pink. And actually, I can't, even though I prefer medium rare, I can't do medium rare in an SCA steak cook. They have to be medium, pink, warm pink center. They can't be red and bloody. So let's start by testing the most well done one, the odd one that we did with the no salt finishing seasoning. It's a tasty ribeye. I'd eat that without complaining. Let's try the middle one. This one we did the second layer with the Outlaw, and we finished it with Montreal steak seasoning. Ironically, that one is more peppery than the third one. And if you remember the third one, we did salt and pepper for the second rub. Just salt and pepper. This one we did other stuff, and it's still more peppery. But it's also more salty and more crunchy. And it's better. Definitely better. I really like that bootleg Outlaw Surf and Turf. Let's try the John Henry's. This was the second layer on this one. And again, just like the Outlaw one, we finished with Montreal steak. Man, that's tough. If I had to pick just off of one bite, I think I would actually go with the Outlaw tomorrow at the contest. But I'll make my final decision after dinner tonight, after I've eaten half of each of these babies. We'll be back in a minute with a wrap-up. All right, y'all, so here's my recap. Learned some big lessons. I'm so glad I practiced throughout the week. I would have totally bombed it at the contest tomorrow if I had pulled that first time cold grate searing technique attempt. So I'm thinking I actually might, you get 2 steaks, and a lot of guys that I've seen on YouTube cook one at a time in case something bad happens. You don't cook both of them at the same time. So I might do my first one cold grate, and if I'm better at it tomorrow, I might submit that one. And if it doesn't go that well, then I will throw my grill grates on and do the old crosshatch traditional SCA steak style that most guys do. I really would like to do the cold grate, but I'm not going to risk my my winnings on it because I plan to win this thing, y'all. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll do one of each. We'll see. But I think I'm going to go with the Outlaw Surf and Turf rub. The reason is this. The Texas brisket rub from John Henry's is very good. It has a real good salt flavor that it added to the beef. The thing that puts the Surf and Turf a step above for the contest purposes, not necessarily for home cooking, although I did like it for home cooking, but for contest purposes is the fact that, so you got your SPG layer. That's your real fine, dusty, salty, peppery, garlicky first layer that we put on with Killer Hogs. Then we went with the Surf and Turf, which is it's semi-coarse. It's not like John Henry's barbecue rub and everybody else's barbecue rub that's also fine, just like our SPG layer. So with the John Henry steak, we went SPG and then John Henry's and then Montreal steak, and Montreal steak is the only layer that had anything coarse in it. With the Surf and Turf Outlaw, the bootleg stuff, we had our fine layer of SPG, then a semi-coarse layer of bootleg Outlaw Surf and Turf, then a coarse layer of Montreal steak. So in addition to the salt, the good salt flavor that you like on beef, it had a little bit of texture to it, more than the John Henry's had. A little bit of, not quite crunchy, but just something there that was pleasing and pleasant, that I want. And it also had a little, I'm not a good enough cook yet to identify all the spices that I'm tasting, but it had more complexity to it, in my opinion, than the John Henry's Texas brisket rub. So the two things it had going for it above John Henry's were that in addition to its salty, good flavor, it had some complexity and it had some crunchiness to it. And I liked it the best, and I liked it even better, I think, than the Tuesday night run that you guys saw a few minutes ago. So I think I'm probably going to go with the Surf and Turf as my second layer, and then of course the SPG and the Montreal steak. The no salt stuff from Costco, I'm sure it's a fine spice, but it didn't add much. It wasn't. It actually needed the salt. It was a little bit too unsalty, that steak, and it really didn't add much crunch or texture. So there's no reason for me to go with that. Anyhow, this is a wrap for tonight's video. Appreciate y'all watching. I'll put out a new video. I'll do as much video as I can at the SCA Steak comp. I don't know how that's going to go because I'm going by myself. I have no help. But I'll do as much videoing as I can. I'm not going to rehash the cooking of the appetizer or a whole lot of the steak cooking. I'll keep you updated as best I can, though, as long as my wimpy cell phone camera battery is lasting long enough. So that's a wrap for tonight. Thank you guys for watching. Wish me luck. Jonathan at Texas 2.5 out.